this is Nikki in Niagara coming to you from Niagara Falls, Canada, and I am bringing you my February reading wrap-up. And while I do that, I will be coloring. I am coloring out of Deborah Muller's Artsy Girls coloring book. This is one of my 10 books to finish and is also part of the hashtags Nikki Colors Muller and hashtag Artsy Girls Challenge. So let's get started. Hopefully I can color a detailed picture while concentrating on speaking. Otherwise I'll be stopping a lot, but you're here for the books in this video. So first off, started with an anthology called Black Static. This is a UK magazine, and it is a horror anthology. And this was just absolutely fantastic. Usually this kind of, these kinds of anthologies are hit or miss, a couple of fantastic stories, a lot of good ones, and a couple of duds. However, this one was all 5-star reads to me, and that is, to me, I find that amazing, and that just goes to show how this showcases some of the best horror writing, or newcomers to horror writing, that there is out at the moment. I would greatly like to read another issue. It's probably quite expensive to purchase here in Canada, since it is £11.99, which works out to about $24 Canadian. And then put in all the export fees and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if it was sold anywhere on newsstands here, it would be like 30 bucks. So I got this through the Abominable Book Club, and hopefully they will send another issue. I highly recommend this. If you're in the UK, definitely get yourselves a copy of that. Now, as you know, I alternate between physical books and Kindle books. So the next one is a Kindle, and I read a classic called Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison, and this was absolutely fantastic as well, and I just absolutely love Southern stories like this, and it was just fantastic, and a 5-star read for me. As we can see, I started off February with some fantastic reads. I think I've said fantastic like maybe 3 times already. So let's read what I wrote for this one. Deservedly a modern classic, a brutal Southern Gothic about a white trash family, told through the eyes of a young girl from about 5 through 12. She's a tough, spunky girl who endures physical, verbal, and sexual abuse. Tough to read at times, with a hard-hitting emotional ending that leaves you feeling mad at the world. And I don't think I can do any better than that with my words at the moment. So the next book that I read was a graphic novel. Let me get it here. So we have Low Life Paranoia by Rob Williams, and this is published by 2000 AD and is part of the Judge Dredd universe. So this takes place in the, I don't know, do they call it anything other than Low Life? Oh, it's the, oh yeah, it's just called the Low Life, which is the lowest class of buildings in the mega city where the judges work. So we get to meet a few judges who work in the Low Life, especially what are their names now? So it's called the Wally Squad. And we have Judge Amy Nixon and, what was the other one? Frank something. Dirty Frank. All right, so those are the two main characters in these stories, and it's a collection of mini series. So, you know, there'll be three sections that go together that, you know, was published in 3 magazines, and then, you know, they've put it together as one full story. So that sort of thing. And they're a lot of fun, like Judge Dredd's comics always are, but now I've lost my, there it is. But they're also quite dark, these low-life stories. So I really enjoyed Judge Amy Nixon. Yeah, I really enjoyed her stories the best. I wasn't too crazy about Dirty Frank himself, but the stories were still good. So again, keeping this for my collection because 2000 AD books are not exactly easy to get around here. So I read that as part of the Reading Journal's challenge for science fiction. Then, probably one of the best books that I read all month, if we don't count Bastard Out of Carolina, was Nick Cutter's The Troop. So I'd never read Nick Cutter before, and I found out 2 interesting things about him. One is that he's Canadian, and that Nick Cutter is a, what do you call it? A pen name for, I think his real name is Craig, I want to say Davidson, but I'm not sure. It's Craig something anyways, and he writes books under that name as well, which sound like they're kind of creepy books as well. So The Troop is just absolutely fantastic. So I'll just read what I wrote here. Amazing. I couldn't put this down. And this is quite a thick book, and I read it. I just could not, I physically could not put it down, and I took breaks to go to the bathroom and eat and sleep, but that's basically it. So it takes place in Prince Edward Island, and a scout troop goes to an uninhabited island, which is off of the main island, and I think they go there each year to camp. So this year, as they're settling into the cabin, a man runs into them screaming about how hungry he is. He is virtually skeletonized, and the scout leader, who is also the town doctor, tries to help him. And the story goes forward from there, and the troop finds itself getting infected one by whatever this guy had. And this book physically gave me the creeps at times, and it takes a lot for a book to scare me or creep me out. I won't say I was scared, but I was definitely creeped out. So there was just great, while it wasn't overly gore infested, there was fantastic descriptions of a lot of unsettling images. And as soon as I finished reading this, I went and looked him up and ordered another book by him, The Deep, which I won't wait too long until I read. So the next book I read was, okay, why do I have 2 blues here? Ah, yes. So the next book that I read was on my Kindle, and that was to read the second book in the Dark Tower series, which is The Drawing of the Three. This is a reread for me, and the title refers to picking or drawing the 3 people that join the gunslinger on his quest. I just flew through this book. It's not a very long book, and I read it in one day. It's both compelling and entertaining, and I couldn't put it down. However, I can't say that it was exactly what you would call exciting in events that happened. It just, you know, it had what was going on, and it went on, but I mean, there was no great big moments or wow or I can't believe that, or, you know, it was just an engrossing story as it went along. So I like King's horror much better than I like his fantasy. But I am looking forward to reading the third book in this series, which I have also read before, and that's as far as I've gone in the Dark Tower. Well, I was going to say trilogy. Originally it was a trilogy. It's not anymore. So after I've read the third book, then I'm going to go back in order, picking up where I was going in order, and I can't even remember what the next book is. Somewhere around the Tommyknockers is where I am, so it's either going to be the Tommyknockers or one before it. Oh, you know what? The next book that I'm reading is Misery. That's it. So really looking forward to that, because I absolutely loved it when I read it, and then when the movie came out, I absolutely loved that too. And of course, I've seen the movie more than once, but I have only read the book the one time, so it'll be interesting to see, because I have the memory of the movie more in my mind than I do the book, so it'll be interesting to see what, if any, are the differences. Though, of course, there will be. So the drawing of 3 was a 4-star rating for me. So next, I went to a physical book, and I read Mrs. March. My son got me this from, I was on my wish list, and he got me this for Christmas. So it is another, I won't say fantastic, was another terrific, great read for me this year. I gave it another 5. So this is a beautiful study of an unstable woman. Someone mentions that the main character in her husband's new novel is based on her, and the woman goes nuts because this character is an unlovable prostitute, and while she's not I should say she's unlovable in the book. However, people who read the book end up loving this character, and it's a really popular book, and everybody is talking great about, how much they love this unlovable character. And so, but she takes a fit. She hasn't read the book. She just assumes that it's all this bad stuff about her. And she goes into basically paranoia. And she's paranoid about every single little thing that she does or her husband says. And goes like this right up to the ending, which was entirely shocking. So this isn't exactly a thriller, because it's not like totally thrilling, but it's a character study, and it's very, very, I would say exciting, but without a lot of action. Like, you know what character studies are. And she's very unstable and unreliable, so I love that kind of a character. And I think I already said that I gave this one 5 stars. So the next book that I read was for the True Crime Book Club, and it was an actual physical book that I read, and it was called the Don't Call It a Cult by Sarah Berman. So this is a story. I shouldn't say it's a story because it's nonfiction, but it is a telling of the NXIVM, what do they call themselves, project, and the cult leader, because NXIVM is basically a cult, the cult's leader, Keith Raniere. Now, I didn't know what this was, but I did know that I had heard about this when it was going on in the news, because it's the case that Allison Mack, yeah, I believe that's her name, Allison Mack. She's from Smallville. She was Chloe on Smallville, one of Superman's best friends. So I had remembered seeing something about that on the news. The only thing that I was left in the dark about with this book is that they didn't say, they said that Allison Mack, was sent to jail, but they didn't say for how long. So don't know if she's still in there or if she's out by now, because this only got settled a couple of years ago. So basically around the time of COVID, I think this was happening, 2020. So I'll read what I wrote about it. I also gave this 5 stars. Absolutely shocking. For the last 6 months or so, I basically thought that I was, it was pretty hard for me to give a book a 5, and here I am just slapping them down. 5, 5, 5. So February was definitely a successful reading month for me. So Don't Call It a Cult by Sarah Berman covers the story of NXIVM and cult leader Keith Raniere. A self-help seminar-based MLM becomes a restrictive group that targets women to become sexual slaves to Raniere's godlike persona. Now, just let me finish this a little bit here, or else I'm going to get lines if I stop. Okay. Many rich and famous people were involved. It's well-written story, is entertaining, and goes into enough depth. I knew little about the case and eagerly read the story of how this man gained power over so many women, ending with the trial and the results. So definitely a deep dive into this cult. It's quite a large book. And it, as I said, it covers all the bases and didn't leave me asking any questions except for what was the eventual fate of Allison Mack. But that's probably just because I know her as an actress, that I want to know what happened to her. So that was my first book that I participated in. Oh, no, it's not. Last month is when I started participating in this, January. But I DNF'd the book because it was really badly written. So, next book is a ebook, and it is called Seventh Night, Before the Fairy Tale, The Girl with No Name. So this was just a short little story, and it's by, don't know how you pronounce this, but I'm going to say Ischah, I-S-C-A-H. So this was a lovely modern fairy tale. After the elderly man who has looked after her dies, a 12-year-old girl is told to leave the village. She is a shapeshifter and sets out on a quest to find the father she has never known. Beautifully written in the style of a fairy tale, suitable for ages 9 and up. And even though that this is suitable for children, it's perfectly readable for adults as well. I really zoomed through this and I gave it a 4. It was a highly readable book. And I believe it's the first in a series. And it's not, I don't think I'll go back and read the rest of the series, but I'm glad to have read it. And if there was a standalone book by Ischah, I would definitely look into that. So I gave it a 4. The next book is a physical book, and you know I've been forgetting to show you all these books. Here's The Troop by Nick Cutter. Here's Mrs. March by Virginia Fato, and I didn't even tell you who wrote that. And here is Don't Call It a Cult by Sarah Berman. So I said about it being quite a quite a thick book. So, the next book, and I'll try not to forget showing them to you, is called Bleed by Ed Kurtz. So, Walt moves into his first home out in the countryside as he starts a new job and makes plans for he and his girlfriend of 3 years. When he first moves in, there is a small rust-colored spot or stain on the hallway ceiling. It gets bigger every time he tries to clean it, or together, the two of them, they clean it, they paint it. Then it starts dripping, leaving pools of blood. Eventually they realize it is alive. A very good book about the nature of evil. Lots of creep factor and unsettling descriptions. The main character isn't likable, but he feels very real. It's so easy to fall under the spell of evil, is kind of the moral or the lesson, is about how easy it is to fall under the spell of evil. It had a very surprising and creepy end, and I really, really liked that. I can't really tell you anything more about what happens with that bleeding alive spot on his ceiling, except to tell you that it is incredibly engrossing and very, very creepy, and I gave this a 4. So far we've got all 5 and 4-star books. Absolutely amazing. So the next book, let's just go there. The next book I read was Tastes Like Candy by Ivy Tholen. Okay, and I don't quite remember what this one was. I gave it 5 stars, so as soon as I start reading here, it'll probably all come back to me. So this is my first slasher book, and I wholly enjoyed it. 6 girls go to the local theme park at night to participate in a yearly ritual. The new senior girls are invited to by last year's chosen girls. It's all fun and games until they all start dying off. So what happens is that, oh yeah, I already said that they go to the local theme park. This is the first time that this initiation type thing has happened at the theme park. And so it turns out that a killer is stalking and killing them one by one. I really enjoyed that the girls were given personalities and backgrounds that made us care for them. So yes, there's a group of girls. I think there's maybe 5, I'm pretty sure there's 5, though there might have been 6. And we get to know all of them, like I said, with personalities and backgrounds. And all the killings happen in the theme park, which is kind of, seems to be like a carnival, but it's at nighttime and it's closed down. So it's really, really creepy. And quite a bit gory too, because it's a slasher book, and I would definitely like to read another slasher book if I come across one, because it was a lot of fun. I don't like those kind of movies anymore, though I did in the 80s. I watched them all, but I guess after I had children, I didn't like them, but I still and have always liked horror books. But yeah, reading a slasher book was really cool. I enjoyed that. So then we go back to physical copy, and I had this anthology called Winter's Tales, New Series 7. So this is a British anthology that was printed, I think it was printed like quarterly or something like that, because they have series numbers, and some of them have, like, you know, part. I can't remember if they're A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. But yeah, so anyways, that's all I really know about the series, except that I have read another book in this series. And this was published in the 90s. This volume is absolutely excellent. A collection of literary short stories, yet each end with a surprise, often odd or dark. It's that type of ending that I feel makes a good short story. Enjoyed all of these, with only 2 being slightly under par with the others. Highly recommend picking up any volumes of this series you run across. I know I will. And I gave it a 4. So, a little bit different from my usual reading of anthologies, and that this was kind of a literary volume, though I've read plenty of literary short stories, just it's been a while. And yet they were all kind of odd in their endings, which I absolutely love. So I gave that 4 stars. Then I read, let's have to turn to the page in my... So then I read Deserter by Junji Ito. And this, I think this is his, no. Something wants me to say that this is his newest book. But I just really realized recently, and I don't know why it took me this long to realize it, but this book was, okay, it was December 2021, so yeah, I think it is his, oh, it is, not I think. It's his latest book. He's coming out with another one this year, but this comes out in 2021, and it was originally published in 2011. So why is it taking us 10 years to to have these come out with English editions? At least we know we've got 10 years worth of material to come out. So don't think this one has or had much body horror. It's his usual wonderful illustrations. So what can I say? I love Ito, and this is another excellent collection of shorts. No body horror this time, and the most chilling story involves the horrors of humankind. It is needless to say the art is stunning. Another great Junji Ito for my collection. And what this was especially good, because usually in his collections there's 1 or 2 that just kind of like, underwhelms me. I don't find the end that unsettling. But this one, all of the stories were excellent. So again, I gave it 5 stars, but I don't think I ever give Junji Ito anything other than 5. So the next book is why do I have that there? Okay, let's pick that one up because I've got it somewhere else on my list. So another physical book here, A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This is the first book that I read by him, and I was expecting a lot, and I was kind of disappointed. So this is the story of a family in the midst of trauma. Told 15 years after the event, the voice alternates from that of the youngest daughter and a blog dedicated to the horrific and unusual. The family's eldest daughter is mentally unstable until the family resorts to it being a possession and exorcism as a last resort. I was terribly disappointed. I had expected scares and creeps, but found none until the final chapters. The quickness with which the exorcism is approved by the church is totally unrealistic, and the story was simply not scary in the least. Yeah, the exorcism thing was totally unreal. I know enough to know what goes through for the church to accept an exorcism as being or a possession, because usually they always defer to psychology, and the psychologists have to formally write that they have done everything they can for the case, and that there's nothing else that they can really do. And that is the first thing that has to happen for the church to even think about. Where am I with this? To even think about doing an exorcism. So this is a popular author, so I will try him once more to see if I connect with him. So hopefully I'll like something else by him, and that this is just kind of a odd one that didn't work out that well. Okay, so let's go back to the list in order. So the next one I read was Killing by the Book, which was an ebook, and it was the first in a British police procedural series, which I am going to continue reading. So it is called, what is the series called? Do I write down their names? No, I don't write. Oh, there it is. Daly and Whetstone. That's what the series is called. So this is the first book in a British police procedural series. Daly and Whetstone work on a case of a murdered woman which eerily resembles a case 5 years earlier. While they try to find a connection, a man is murdered with the same M.O. A slow burn, but the case progresses quickly. My first book by the author, and I'm going to be continuing the series. So yeah, not too much to say there without giving away anything that happens with the plot, but I like this trope where, you know, there's a new murder and one of the detectives remembers back in his early days as being a what do you call it? I don't know what you call it in England, but you know, his rookie days, and then they do connect and so forth. So now the next book I read was quite a interesting, shall we say, book that I also gave 4 stars to, and it's called Bring Me Flesh, I'll Bring Hell, which really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the story. So I don't know if you can tell from that little picture here, but this is a zombie book, and it is unlike any other I've read. We get to know the zombie, Vitus, as a person. So yes, he's the main character, and we're being told the story through his eyes. He is a pre-deceased person, and he's a government experiment gone wrong, he thinks. He takes a pill every hour to stave off the hunger. He goes into the world to find out if he really did kill his son when he turned. I really enjoyed this. A slow burn as we get to know the character and have real emotions for him. So when he thinks that, well, he knows that he was part of a government experimentation. Now he thinks it went wrong, but it really went right. And he turned from a human being into a zombie at home, and he killed his wife and son. But he suddenly starts to wonder, something happens that makes him wonder, did he really kill his son? And that is the premise for the book. So we get to know Vitus, all about his feelings and what he has to deal with, and his background and his personality. And the book is a little bit funny too. It has some like sarcastic comments by Vitus. He's not exactly a happy-go-lucky guy, so it is kind of funny in a sarcastic way. And there was I've never read a zombie book like it before, and I really enjoyed it, so I gave that 4 stars. The next book that I read was Hellhound by, what's his name, Ken Greenhall. And this is a tiny little book. I have the Valancourt book edition, which has an introduction by Grady Hendrix, which I read after I read the story. I had an English teacher once who said, only read the introduction or foreword if it's written by the author, because they know what they want you to know before you go into reading the book. If it's written by somebody else, they'll probably tell you stuff that happens that you'd be better off not knowing. So that's what she told us, and I've always followed that rule since and have found it to be wise advice. So this is just absolutely horrifying for me. First of all, I'm afraid of dogs. I just don't like any kind of dog that there is in real life. I don't mind meeting them in the in various types of media, but I'm not all gaga over dogs. And this kind of dog, or these kinds of dogs, I should say, just totally, I find them unattractive and scary. This is a bull terrier. So they are really creepy looking, and I don't know if you can tell by the cover of this, but that's that kind of dog we're talking about. So I really enjoyed this and gave it a 5. It's not what I expected. So yeah, if you remember last year, everybody was talking about the book that was told through the voice of a cat. Well, this book is told through the voice of a dog, alternately. It alternates between, well, here, let's read what I wrote. Seen from the point of view of a dog at intervals, this is a tale of power. So it'll tell us what's happening from the point of view of the dog, and then it will go to through the eyes of whoever he's with at the time, which changes over the course of the book. Well, that's not working, is it? So just a minute, I'm going to have to get myself another one of these. Can't seem to see that I have another one. Oh, yes I do. There it is. Hopefully it's the same color. Yeah, it is. Can't tell the difference at all. So where was I? So it's a story of power told through the point of view of a dog at intervals. The dog is evil, and that's because he lacks a conscience and always thinks and acts in ways that will get him what he wants. I thought this would be dumb at first, but quickly got drawn into the intense story. Very intense and horrifying, actually. It's not gross or anything like that, but it is. It was horrifying. And that character will stay with me for a while, and unfortunately it's just intensified my fear of dogs. So it's a classic, definitely. It was written in 1977, and I highly recommend it. So, the next book I read was an ebook, The Stranger in the Woods by Kirsten Margolin. Always like to throw in one or two of her books a month. So we have The Stranger in the Woods. Now I can't remember what her books are about by the title, because it's kind of like Agatha Christie. They all kind of run together once you've read them, but her thrillers are amazing. So I gave this a 4-star. Oh, I gave Hellhound 5 stars, in case you didn't guess. On the anniversary of thriller author Arlie's husband's death, she finds a stranger in the woods. He is injured and has amnesia. Showing a small-town hospitality, she takes him home, and they become friends. With a killer copycat. I put copycatting her last book's death scenes. Suspicions around the stranger abound. Okay, I kind of stumbled over that, but hopefully you get the idea. Stranger in town, but there's also some deaths going on with this author's being similar to the author's death scenes in her books. So another awesome book by Kirsten. Page turner with many twists, just what you've come to expect from her books. And that was a 4-star as well. So then I kept on reading ebooks. Then the next one that I read was called Haunted, Perrin Manor, and this is book 1 in the Haunted series. When I first started off reading this, I wasn't sure I was going to like it, but yeah, I really did by the end, and I definitely want to continue reading on with the series. It is a Kindle Unlimited books. The books are on Kindle Unlimited, so it'll be very easy to finish reading the series. So just let me finish around her hair here. Okay. An extended family moves into a mansion with a checkered past. They've inherited it, and it's supposedly haunted. Not believing in the supernatural, they try to make a home. However, incidents start happening which turn one of them into a believer. Lots of fun. A few writing issues, but I enjoyed this tale of lost souls and demons. Yeah, the problem that there were some grammar mistakes and typos, don't know which they were. But the main thing that bothered me with the writing is that every single character continuously said, fair enough. Like, I know the expression, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it in real life. And for everybody, usually a saying like that is like a quirkiness of a single person. But every single character in this book said it, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Oh, it became very, very annoying. But fortunately, the story was so good that after a while I got used to it. And I do think it happened more in the first part of the book than in the latter part of the book. So yeah, this is a haunted mansion type of thing. And I have to say, I got vibes of, while I was reading it, I got vibes of the first season of American Horror Story. It kind of, I don't know why, it just, I got those kind of vibes while reading it. Really good, so I gave it a B. And then, the last physical book that I read was Girl in Snow by Danya Kukovka. And again, this was another excellent book that I read this month, 5 stars. So I think I just kind of like went through my shelves and picked up all the books that everybody loved and decided to read them. Hopefully I still have more 5 stars on my shelves. So I'll tell you about that as soon as I'm finished here. And that'll be the end of my coloring for today. So, Girl in Snow. The backdrop for this story is the murder of a popular high school girl, told through the perspectives of 3 persons who are all outsiders. The classmate who has been peeping at her through windows, another classmate who wanted her dead and gone, and one of the policemen who is on the case. This is a literary mystery that concentrates on the feelings, backgrounds, and personalities of these 3. A very powerful and emotional book. The solution for the mystery was one I did not see coming. So really it's a mystery rather than a thriller. And while that mystery is going throughout the whole book of who killed that girl, we're really paying attention to these 3 characters. And then towards the end it gets more upbeat and, quicker, shorter chapters that you're flipping through to find out the solution at the end. So that's when it picks up pace, and then it gives you a whopper of an ending that I certainly didn't see coming. And I gave that 5 as well. So, one more left, and that I read on Kindle, and that is The Sign of the Beast by Joyce Carol Oates. And this is actually, I got it as a Kindle single, but it's a short story. And I did not like this. Herbert has a birthmark on one side of his face. As a young teenager, his Sunday school teacher makes remarks about it, calling it the sign of the beast. The teacher behaves sexually towards Herbert, and he relates what happens next. Didn't like this much, and when it ended, I just kind of went, huh? So yeah, that's how I felt about it. So great, fantastic month of reading with the end on a little short sour note, but that didn't wreck my feelings for this month. If I can read those kind of books every month, I will be one happy reader. So that's the end of it all, and this is what I've got done on my picture, and I will see you with my more reading at the end of this month. So thank you so much for watching. Bye!